The deal is this. Tell you, when I was a kid, I read Dropper Anton Wilson, all this real. Tell you, when I was a kid, I read Dropper Anton Wilson, all this real. Dude, I'm pissed. Dude, I'm pissed. Come on. What? Okay, by the time we finish this, you're all going to be practicing magicians.
I'm Jeremy Greer.
And I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this is Days of Future Cast, the podcast where Gary and I are covering New X-Men by Grant Morrison from 2001 through 2004. We are on issue 138, and we are finishing the arc Riot at Xavier's. I get better and better at these the more we do these in a session, Gary. Like, if by this logic, we should do like 40 of these. So number 40 would be our best podcast ever. We could just finish it. Like, that's the
best covering The Bright New Morning from Chuck Austin. It'll be the best podcast we've ever done about the worst comic we've ever covered.
So to catch everybody up, Quentin Quire and his group of New Mutants rioted at Xavier's. They managed to create a lot of violence and a lot of speeches before the whole thing is taken apart by partly the X-Men, but also Stepford Cuckoos, who stepped in and basically just ended Quentin Quire. He's still alive, but his abilities are just not working, and he's just fucking crazy right now. The result of this,
it's a tragedy. Like, it is a tragedy of the teaching staff, because they basically had it under control, for all their faults, right? Like, I think that Xavier probably would have been able to not talk Quentin down, but what could have stopped him potentially. And the Cuckoos came and did the nuclear option at great cost to themselves, because Sophie died as the one that Quentin Quire loved the most.
Yes. So we start with the cover like we usually do, and this is just a kind of very serious, forlorn-looking Xavier either putting Cerebra hat on or taking the Cerebra hat off. But it's
or just holding it still over his head.
You think so? Just like hold it up like I'm trying to, like I'm 8 years old trying to tune in like the weird station that I don't quite get, so I'm holding it up with holding the antenna up with my arm to try to pick it up.
He's telling his mom that he can lift a big heavy thing.
Yeah. I just want to watch a different world without static, Gary. Is that too much to ask?
So this episode is called The Prime of Miss Emma Frost here. And this is going to be an Emma Frost issue because they've done a little foreshadowing of her losing students being on the tip of everyone's tongue.
I didn't notice this for the other issues, but on the kind of introductory, like the previously page, they line out who the X-Men are, the Special Class, and the Omega Gang. And like in the Omega Gang is just Kick. Like it's a fucking member of the gang.
It's the Mascot.
Yeah. This would be like if you put like, it's the Greer family, Jeremy, Autumn, their dogs, their horses, and a beer.
And a microphone. It's very funny. It gets its own little portrait. I love it.
So the thing we didn't mention is that the last kind of remaining member of the Omega Mutants is Glob Herman, who is a living like being of wax who is currently set on fire and chasing a bunch of humans in a bus. Luckily, Beast has managed to get ahead of him a little bit and saves 2 humans before Glob just runs directly through their car, like literally splitting it in 2. It looks fucking awesome.
Yeah, great action scene here. All of this is really good action. He saves him. He's running after him, trying to tackle him. He misses. Cyclops and Zorn are chasing after him. Zorn jumps out as Cyclops shatters the windshield, blasting Glob's shoulder to put him off balance, knocking him down near a gas station, which is the worst place to take gigantic flaming take him out. But Zorn then picks up this big concrete mixer that happens to be there and pours concrete all over Glob Herman, extinguishing him.
And he is like losing it. He's like saying ball. Beast runs in and grabs what looks like a bunch of bottles of water.
Bottles of water.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to extinguish him.
I feel like this would be like a tear gas situation where you should really use milk and not water. But what do I know about paraffin wax, right?
Yeah. And then he just says, "Spare us the histrionics, Herman. You'll live. Trust me, I'm a doctor."
Yep.
Good line. The X-Men have saved the day here.
Yes, and I love Cyclops' ability to just like knock this dude off balance is really, really good, right? Like that's a lot of fun. We go back over to the Xavier Institute, and I just love that there's a pickup truck. Like they had to go rent a pickup truck so they could break this piece of concrete out so they could bring Blob home. While other students
frozen in
carbonite. Exactly. And while other people are like cleaning up the outside of the mansion, Wolverine is running Tattoo Redneck and is it Radiant? Is that what you said?
Radian.
Jesus, that's like a nightmare fucking Metal Gear Solid character if you've never heard one, right?
Luckily he's gone. So this is your last chance to not remember his name, and you'll never have to not remember it again.
Woo, thank God.
So dodged a bullet.
Felt the same way when my step cousin died. Woo!
Step cousin.
Which one you ask? I don't know.
Ain't my problem anymore. And Wolverine is doing drill sergeant shit. You know, when the professor convinces the authorities to hand you back, you're gonna be sent to the third world, where you're gonna put that revolutionary energy to help, to good use, helping people who need it. You're gonna help so long that you bleed and you sob, and then you're gonna help some more, because a bright kid with her whole life ahead of her is dead because of you people.
Yep.
You know.
And they try to protest like, hey, this not for us. Like we were influenced by a superior mind. Quentin Quire like made us do it. Wolverine's like, yeah, and I'm making you do this. So shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
I like this. Like this is a very I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast kind of thing, but it works for me. Like this is what Wolverine would do in this situation.
Yeah, good characterization. We cut over to Miss Frost doing a funeral. The Rose Garden Tuesday. It's been a couple days. Reading this poem in tribute to Sophie, and says like, we must be strong as Sophie was. I propose to create a shrine, near these roses that she loves so much, and the girls are just walking away. She's lost control. Like, what good is a shrine? Maybe you're hoping it'll inspire more children to their deaths. We were the 5 and 1. What are we now?
Yeah, and they tell her they're going to
really resent this.
Yeah, they really do, and they're gonna go to because apparently they lost their telepathic ability when Sophie died, so they're going to go study with Madame Lafarge in Switzerland, instead of Emma Frost here in New York. Yeah. I don't know anything about Lafarge. I don't know if I've read anything with her or not. I
don't think Lafarge is real. I think this is a throwaway little joke. Because then Emma Frost is terrified. She's like, Lafarge, she has hair on the back of her hands, and she looks shocked and appalled at this, basically, she asked, well, girls, what are you saying? We're saying, Sophie's dead because she believed in your rubbish. Like, you're all shiny surface with nothing underneath. Again, shades of, parallels with Quentin Quire calling everyone out for their image here. You're just nasty jokes and cleverness. People like you are a danger to young children. Goodbye. She's like, that's not true. I love children. Teaching is my life. And they say, if you love them so much, why do you let them die all the time, you silly old woman? It's of course sad.
This makes Emma so emotional that she has to turn into her diamond form. So she cuts herself off from her emotions and says, I'm only 27, you ungrateful wretches. Which that's the most unbelievable thing about this whole fucking arc is that Emma Frost is only 27 years old. But whatever.
Well, she's not. She's lying.
Yeah.
She's saying it that's the age she tells people, but she's like in her mid to late 30s.
Yeah. We go into the infirmary several days after that, and Charles and the Beast are checking out his body, checking out Quentin's body. He's in the floating tank that Beak was in for a while, and Beast is like his body temperature's all over the place. His brain cells are converting into something like faster than light energy and disappearing. Like he doesn't really know what's happening. They think that it was some sort of secondary mutation, but they got triggered early by all of the kick. And Xavier's like, I can see into I'm here, but I can't see into your mind what's going on. And that's when Quentin starts trying to describe what he's experiencing, which is like thoughts in different languages and all of these divided little boxes that can't hear itself think. And like Charles describes it as like a hand scared of its fingers, the loneliness and loss felt in a world without telepathy. Which is, I think, is very like poetic and beautiful in a way.
Yeah, a hand scared of its fingers is really good.
Yeah.
You know, he's saying, he's streaming, going into bigger rooms, outside rooms, bigger than the whole world. Basically transcending.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to know who my parents are because I haven't been born yet. Things like that. Like he's experiencing time from all angles. He starts freaking out. His eyes are glowing. He's dying. Xavier says, "Fetch Zorn. His healing gifts might be our last chance." And here's some foreshadowing, where Quentin Quire is like, "Professor, it's the future already. I thought I was going to miss it. Look at the curve of time. Manhattan is gone. The school is gigantic." Foreshadowing some stuff. I'm thinking, what if you're wrong, Professor X? I couldn't help thinking those thoughts laying loose. Well, I'm not trying to be rude, but what if you're really wrong? What if you missed the point?
And Xavier responds to this like in a pretty rational way, which is saying like that's the question we all have to ask ourselves every single day, and admits like I've done many good things, but I've made some very terrible mistakes along the way, which is extremely honest of Xavier to tell this kid because it's the truth. Like this is all of this stuff with Quentin is a mistake that Xavier made. Xavier could have probably prevented a lot of this from happening.
Yeah. What Quentin is actually seeing. So Zorn comes in. Zorn says like, "No, he's not dying. He's only changing. It would be wrong to interfere. Don't be afraid." And Quentin starts saying, "What if we were both wrong, Professor X, and it wasn't the humans at all?" Again, foreshadowing. He's like looking right at Zorn. Mm-hmm. And Zorn says, "When I was a boy, not much younger than you, there's a little star up in my head." And he's like, "What if the real enemy was inside all along?" Like really great dramatic irony. Like, what Quentin's talking about is the arc.
Yes.
Not talking about, what's happening to him.
And Zorn says, "A flower made of lights is opening in you. I can help you to let go of your last painful attachments to this flesh where you were grown. There is something in you that is like me. Do you see?" And then opens his mask and presumably killing Quentin Quire at this point.
Yes.
I know Xavier is going to describe it as like transcending to a higher plane, but like there is something in you that is like me. Again, just that sense of dramatic irony where if you're reading this, you might be smart enough to put some of this together, but more than likely you're going to get blindsided by this twist that's coming later. And you go back and reread it and you're like, holy shit, the clues were there all the time. Mr. Snowman.
Mr. Snowman. Mr. Snowman. I gave you the clues. Dun, 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 dun. But so this is extremely sad. We cut over to Xavier announcing the death. Like Quentin Quire was liberated from his physical cocoon and born into a higher world. I know that sounds ridiculous, but we think it's actually the literal truth. Basically says, my methods were nonviolent. My goal was integration. But in light of these recent events, I think my approach might be an error. You're free to continue your protest as long as you have inclination. Keep in mind that the school will close for summer in 6 days, and I will be stepping down as headmaster. So, whoa, it's fucked up. There's a prize giving ceremony at the end of the year. This is like, graduation basically. And kind of a big deal. He's going to be stepping down. Big changes.
It's like all of the points. Like it's the house system from Harry Potter at the end of the movie. Like Gryffindor has 170,000 points or whatever.
Exact.
Yeah. And this kind of takes the wind out of the sails for the students that were still protesting, probably not really understanding what they were protesting very much. And so they're all kind of, they're all just like looking around going like, okay. Meanwhile, on Friday, Emma Frost has taken Angel out to get some new threads, and basically we see here that she's adopting Angel to be her next protege. Angel, of course, still has some rough parts, and it's like, hey, I look totally stupid, and she's like, no, that's way behind you. You look exquisite. Like, come look in the mirror. And Angel wants to talk about some important stuff, and then just again, Emma's hubris and like. She just kind of blazes over it. Like, of course you can talk to me. Like, I'll do anything. Like, first, let's go get this taxi and all this stuff. Like, she just isn't listening to her.
When she specifically says, so there's like subtext here where Angel says, Mr. Zorn keeps saying I'd make a good superhero too. Angel has this relationship with Zorn. She knows part of Zorn's secret. Mm-hmm. So the implication here, I think, is that they've been talking, and we'll find that out later that there's something to this. Also, Emma is kind of activated, by saying, like, I think I make a pretty good superhero. And she's trying to, that is the same language that the cuckoos threw back in her face. Like, being a superhero is how you inspire kids to die. Really, really deft characterization stuff here with Emma Frost, with her like pathological need to have a student.
Yes.
Have kind of a protege.
Yeah.
We cut over to the prize giving ceremony. Xavier is giving the cuckoos a prize. We cut over to the special class. We haven't checked in on them for a little while. They're sitting back and watching. A great little basilisk joke here. Like, I think I smelled dummy. He's floating around alive in the shape of a gas, kind of near your butt. Just very like rude.
The cuckoos
Guy
are
just
dressed.
died.
The cuckoos are dressed in like these weird jumpsuits, and I just love Basilisk looking at this and going, "Them girls weird."
Yeah, weird. Basilisk is great.
Also getting awards are Beak and Angel, but they are not at the table with the losers. And when the panel where everybody's like looking to where they should be sitting, I just love that Basilisk's side of this table, like he's coated the tablecloth with food, like he's just the messiest eater ever. Like it's just a very small thing, but like of course this dude is a messy eater, right?
Yeah, he doesn't have lips. You know, just like, but also like it's a great little detail. Everyone else is polite. Zorn seems pretty out of it and like cranky about this whole thing, which again, when we cut over to Beak and Basilisk rushing to get the prizes. They're dressed up. I love Beak's little like suit. And Angel is like telling to shut up, like, listen, you know, you were born loser. On the label, that's what it is. And she starts puking, which a lifetime of media consumption tells me that if a woman pukes, she's pregnant.
Of course.
It's just what happens. She's either drunk or pregnant, and we see pregnant a lot more. That is the semiotics.
Gotta hope she's drunk. It's the
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Basically, you know, okay, you be Mr. Sunshine and show me how it's done. 2 words, Beaky, I'm pregnant. They're gonna throw us out of the school unless we do something. And he goes, us? What does that have to? Oh,
because Beak is a little slow on the uptake on how some of this stuff works.
How baby making happens.
Back at the prize giving ceremony, we go over to the Cuckoos, who are surprised that Miss Frost isn't there, but have another plan, and they start at like kind of talking amongst themselves of like, who do we know that's really good at telepathy? That can see into the heart of skull. What about one of the teachers? And on an airplane that's about to land at JFK, Jean Grey and Dust. I'm not even going to try to pronounce her real name, are about to land when the Cuckoos telepathically contact Jean Grey and says, it's something we need to tell you about. It's about your husband and Miss Frost.
Yeah. Again, getting revenge, you know, for Sophie dying by outing Cyclops in this affair. At the same time, Cyclops has found Emma Frost. She's out by the Rose Garden, you know, where she's going to plan that tribute. And he's like, you know, listen, I have to make a decision. You know, she says, like, this has been a hideous week. I'm so glad you're here. Like, let me get some escapism. Like, let's just get away from this and have a little fun. Like, let's go make out in our brain box. And takes him into the brain zone, the brain sex dungeon, where she's dressed up as Phoenix, you know, and basically just like trying to, like, she's had a rough week, right? Like, you know, bereavement fills me with unforgivable loss. Like, that's her sense of humor covering up for the fact that she's actually really hurt.
Yeah.
You know, by this, and just needs a real distraction. You know, Cyclops trying to stop her, like, I can't do this. She just keeps saying it's not real, they're just thoughts. You know, don't do this. And he's really blushing. Yes.
And like he tries to back away, and she, like, we go back to the real world, and then she, like, you know, you say that you say that you don't want to do this, but I can feel something different. Like, these are just ordinary emotions, and like even changes her hair to look red in the psychic sex dungeon. And this is eventually kind of what settles it. Like he starts getting really into this, and we see this panel of his face where he's just kind of checked out, and then with Jean Grey stalking up behind him.
You know, he's been seduced. You know, we go back into the psychic sex dungeon. She's like, stop trying to live up to these restrictive ideals. Let yourself fall. Stop being such a superhero. And he goes, like, that's all I've ever been. I've never allowed myself to be anything else. And she's like, you can be something else here, which is, you know, part of this whole storyline with Cyclops and Emma Frost's affair is that, like, Emma Frost is fulfilling a purpose for Cyclops. Like, Cyclops has a real pathology here that she is addressing. You know, there's going to be consequences for this, and she's not doing it in a forthright way, but it's real. You know?
And I mean, the idea of a psychic sex therapist, you know, making herself look like your wife so that you can take out your weird sexual urges, not even weird, but just like your sexual frustration, is probably something that would work if it wasn't just so inherently like,
it was consensual for all parties.
Yeah. If it wasn't literally cheating.
It wasn't homeworking.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, like during the middle of this, as she's unzipping her Phoenix outfit, of course, Jean Grey comes barging in, and we get our last page of the issue saying, you know, don't tell me, you can explain, and catches the two of them in the psychic sex dungeon bed together.
I love that. I love also just when it gets interrupted, Emma Frost saying like, "Oh Scott, you're making me lose control. I'm going to explode with passion and fry the stars." Her like Phoenix dialogue
It's really funny to me.
Funny.
Yeah.
One of the things that is like only a really confident writer can do is have characters impersonate one another. And that happens a few times in this arc. And you can tell that Grant Morrison has this like just perfect handle on these character voices because it can do stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's not the same dialogue that Phoenix would have. It's the dialogue specifically that Emma Frost would do while kind of making fun of the Phoenix.
Yeah. Making fun of her and also just like aping her to a degree. Like it's
exactly.
And like, this is a real weird way to end a 5-issue arc. I think like we wrapped everything up at the beginning of the book and then move on to this, which is going to kind of set up the next arc. And it's super interesting. Like all of this Quentin Quire stuff, like Quentin's dead. They're going to go send these poor mutant kids to human jail, which I mean, like, Jesus Christ, Wolverine. Can you
Way to die.
Yeah. And when you get out, we're going to send you to a third world country. Like that seems like maybe you should rehabilitate these kids in a different way than, I don't know, sending them to a third world country. But whatever. But yeah, like, overall, again, one of my favorite arcs in this run, if not one of my favorite X-Men arcs ever. Not the least of which is just because of some of the Scott and Jean stuff and this Emma stuff. Like, I think Scott and Emma are a really interesting couple, and this is going to shake up this entire relationship in the X-Men universe for years and years to come, and I very much enjoy it.
Me too. The thing about this having the first issue and the last issue not totally being about the riot is that like one of the things that I love about this issue is how it ties into the rest of the run. Not just with the Scott and Jean stuff, but also with the Zorn stuff, and the foreshadowing. Like this is a great arc on its own, but it has these tendrils into kind of strengthening the stories around it as well.
Exactly.
Really good development on these two major subplots of the thing, and great character development on a bunch of characters that have been introduced, but not gotten a lot of time. We got a little bit of time with Angel, a little bit of time with Beak. We're getting, this is kind of centering them in a way that is cool.
Yes. And that's really it. What a
leads
great
into an arc I like a lot too. So
yeah. I think the murder at the mansion is really, really good. Hey, Bishop's going to show up in a couple issues, Gary. Are you excited to talk about Bishop without harmonicas? Oh, dude. So yeah, thank you everybody for listening. Hopefully you're still reading along with us or reading ahead of us. We really appreciate all of the support you've given us since we have changed the format of the show. If you want to support us directly, patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv is the best place to do so. That's also the best place to tell us who on the Duckfeed network you'd like to guest but host the show if it wasn't me or Gary.
If we ever do that swappy thing, you can't just sub me out for everything. I get to stay on some shows.
Autumn asked me the other day, it was like, I got a weird tweet asking why me and Cole would be on an episode of Everything to Guppy. What's going on? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what's happening.
I never thought about that combo, but that's pretty incredible.
Can you imagine?
I imagine Autumn has not played Everything to played Guppy and just watched you. And I think Cole has maybe played a couple levels of it and just being like, what is your trenchant insight on, Azazel?
Autumn hates when I played The Binding of Isaac. She despises it. And you would think it would be because of like the aesthetic of it. Because it's baby shit, baby blood. It's dumb abortion jokes, all that kind of stuff. But she just thinks it's incredibly boring. She's like, this is like every screen looks the same. Like, and I'll get like a crazy run. I'll be like, look at this stuff. She goes, it just looks like garbage on the screen. I don't know what you're doing. So like the idea of giving her, I don't know, like the fucking luck up item or something, which she's like, I don't know what the fuck this is.
Autumn, what's your type 15 on the concept of luck? Yeah, it's very funny.
It would be pretty good. Yeah. So anyway,
me and Cole will start actually looking at that and doing some spreadsheets and figuring out how to do host swap bundle because the demand has been really high. People really like that idea. So,
yeah. People,
good idea, Jeremy.
Like if people added me on Twitter, I think when you guys talked about it on whatever recent episode that I haven't tracked down yet. So like I know people would be super into it.
Yeah. So what people will also be into is going to patreon.com/DuckFeedTV. And getting a bunch of cool extra stuff in exchange for supporting your boys and girls, and also going to Apple Podcasts, leaving reviews, and also telling your friends and blogging about the show, things like that.
You know what? Make a vlog. Like, get after it. Dude. Do it.
Yeah.
Point your fucking camera at your fucking face and record something saying that the Days of Future Cast rules and put it on your fucking vlog.
Your fucking vlog. You jackal.
We'll be back in a couple of days with Murder at the Mansion.